Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you like the video today, please comment and share it. Today's video is our 2024 NFL Draft prospect, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of the University of Georgia. If you like the video, one more time, please comment and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. And to talk about Mr. McConkey today, I call him the most talented guy covering the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm not going to go long-winded and tell you every great thing about him. All I'm going to say, he's the Phil Collins of the 2024 NFL Draft. Mr. Daniel Kelly coming to us live out of Key West, Florida. Let's get with it with Ladd McConkey. How you doing, Mr. Kelly?
Hey, I'm doing very well, Mr. Turner. How are you today?
Hey, man, I'm ready to go. As you just said in our pre-show meeting, we only a couple of months away. We're actually a month and a half away from the great night in April.
Well, actually, I don't like to correct you on this show, you know that, but firstmany.com, my official website for the draft, we officially have on my countdowns are 1 month, 17 days, 11 hours, 50 minutes, and 25, 24, 23 seconds till it all starts.
Yes, sir. Let's get with it, man. Let's talk about this big Georgia Bulldog.
Absolutely be glad to hear, Mr. Turner, and thank you to our listeners for joining us today. Ladd McConkey, you see him on your screen there, number 84, 6'0", 185 pounds. As I always like to say, I do not sing with the choir, and I do not make any apologies for that whatsoever with the rest of the NFL draft community, because everything I do at FirstRoundMock.com is built like the foundation of a house upon game film. 2022, if you go back and look at his scouting report on my website, you'll see 6 games evaluated in 2022, and also in 2023, I looked at Ladd McConkey there. You see on your screen against Missouri, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss. Turn up the volume, turn on the hype on Mr. McConkey there on your screen. No relationship, I should make this clear from the get-go, to the famous Giants receiver, Phil McConkey. Who could forget Sims to McConkey? I'm sure you remember that, Mr. Turner.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. I tell you what, heck, it's even a title of a book. In fact, I still, being a Redskins fan growing up, I still have nightmares about Sims to McConkey. This is a different one. Circling back to Ladd McConkey, here we go. This guy moves the meter. A pure football player who the late, great John Madden would have gone bonkers, berserk for. This is the type of guy that he would have loved. This is the type of guy who could have played in any era. You could have thrown a leather helmet on Ladd McConkey, and he could have done just fine. Listen, if you're the Buffalo Bills, okay, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, okay, sitting toward the bottom of the first round, yeah, you better start looking at Ladd McConkey, is all I can say. The Carolina Panthers are praying you guys pass on him so they can probably go get him in the top of the second round. This is a guy who's a third down machine. Not my words, but those are the words of a television announcer about Ladd McConkey in the Vanderbilt game. Let's talk dominant traits. If I'm sitting in an NFL war room, it's my turn to come. They say, okay, Daniel, what do you think about Ladd McConkey? This is the way I'm talking in an NFL building if I was there. Talking about dominant traits. Very instinctual running routes. He has a nose for getting open. One of the pure best route runners in the 2024 NFL draft class. He has this signature move, okay? These are this is kind of how they separate, okay? Because when you're looking at wide receivers going into the NFL, these corners, it takes more than speed and agility and, to be able to beat these guys. These NFL corners, some of them are very long in the tooth. They've been in the league, 8, 10, 12 plus years. These guys have memorized. These guys see route trees in their sleep. Okay, it takes more than that. And the thing that's intriguing about Ladd McConkey is this signature move he has. He knows exactly how to set up cornerbacks on film. He has this little, these little counter steps he takes, these little counter steps that he takes, and which allows and creates larger throwing windows. Of course, that's what it's called in football. These areas of space which the quarterback can fit the ball into. He does create bigger throwing windows. Zone, as they say in New York, it's one word there. I spent 4 years in New York. Forget about it. Zone defense, this guy eats up zone defense like breakfast. McConkey's hands are dominant. As far as looking, it's not just a hot take. There's stats that do confirm the game film here. And the injury short in 2023, he was 30 out of 37 as far as being targeted. 81% catch rate. 2022, 71% catch rate. 2021, 79% catch rate. This guy catches just about everything thrown his way, and he is very impressive as far as his hands. And, of course, that is the most important attribute of a wide receiver. Can he catch the football? And Ladd McConkey, the resounding answer is yes. When I close my eyes, and I don't do that often when I watch game film, but the name that went through my mind was Christian Kirk with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was a big fan of Christian Kirk, the receiver, back when he was coming, into free agency from the Arizona Cardinals. In fact, I wrote about it. If you look it up online for SI Detroit Lions, a big fan of Christian Kirk at that time. Coming out of the slot, he went on from Arizona to Jacksonville, signed a 4-year, $72 million deal, and all he's done with the Jacksonville Jaguars is catch 141 passes for 1,895 yards and 11 touchdowns. McConkey reminds me of that game. If we're making chocolate chip cookies or we're making some kind of recipe in the kitchen, we always have a mixture of things, a recipe of things, a bowl of things that we stir around in a bowl. And some of the names, some of the things, the mixture of the football DNA, if you will, of a Ladd McConkey. When I watched him on film, the name Steve Largent went through my mind from the Seattle Seahawks, Julian Edelman from the New England Patriots, Cooper Kupp from the Rams. Translation, like we like to say, what's the translation? What's the bottom line? What does this boil down to? Ladd McConkey is going to be a very real headache for NFL defenses and secondaries because he plays the game like he loves it. It's uber important to him. You can see it. It shows up even as blocking. This is really where you can tell. People say, Daniel, how do you know that he's selfless? Watch Ladd McConkey on this game film, on these links I have on my website or his report. Turn on these links. Don't watch him as a receiver. Watch Ladd McConkey as a blocker. That's where the selflessness shows up. Football is a team sport. Selflessness is one of the most coveted traits that can be in a prospect for NFL teams. This guy leaves himself at the door, walks in, selfless blocker. McConkey wants it. Going from a 30,000-foot view, from an aerial view, kind of shrinking it down for us to more of a microscopic view, putting him under the NFL draft microscope, if you will. Other positives, let me just kind of quickly just kind of rattle off these positives. Scrappy, okay? He's productive at all three route levels, short, intermediate, and deep. Strong frame. You see them on your screen there. Strong build frame. Determined. He's like the little train that thought he could. Only in this case, he's a little receiver that knows he can. Knows how to get open, as I kind of pointed to. Knows how to work secondaries, which I've talked about. Understands route running and the art of route leverage. Quick at his break points, which of course are the points in a route where he kind of changes direction and gets into where the ball's going to be coming in. Wiggly. He's really wiggly after he catches the ball. This guy is super slippery after he catches the ball, and he's determined. He runs to daylight. This guy wants to pick up yakety yak yards after the catch. You're going to have to try to bring him down. Otherwise, he's going to run to the end zone. This guy has deep ball tracking skills that are pretty good. Now, as far as the negatives, right? Tony Rosano, Secrets NFL Scout, the book I scout on back when I was taught myself when I was 17 years old, the old 49ers scouting director. There are no 10s. Of course, there are weaknesses with every prospect, and Ladd McConkey is no exception to that rule. Weaknesses. struggles against physicality at breakpoints. Turn up the volume. If you're an NFL defensive coordinator and you're matching up with Ladd McConkey in the slot, and you got a slot nickel, that you got a nickel back that's covering this guy, you really want to get in his face. You really want to physically challenge him at the route breakpoint, seem to struggle. Average catch radius being the circumference that surrounds a receiver's natural wingspan and area of reach, vertical jump, going down to the ground, kind of that overall circumference, that circular area, the kind of the target, like a strike zone in baseball. Average catch radius. This guy is not jumping out of a gym. He's not bending over backwards. He's not, this guy has an average catch radius. Average at high pointing the ball. Another key one to know. This guy isn't mossing anybody, okay? Moss, of course, Randy being the Hall of Fame receiver that made a career of circus catches jumping up in the air like he was Michael Jordan in football pads. That is not Ladd McConkey. Average, high pointing the ball. And again, the injury in 2023, the injury shortened season for Ladd McConkey. And so I'll conclude by saying it's for those very 4 reasons that basically, that has him sliding down to my draft board at firstroundmock.com, going, in that 18 to 32 first round range. I think closer to, 28 to 32 is where we're going to see his name called from the card, which is a blessing in disguise, really, because that means what? It means you're going to a playoff team with a stronger support structure in place, which is actually a wonderful thing for a lot of these youngsters coming into the league, so they can plug in and they don't have tremendous pressure on them right off the bat. Your thoughts, Mr. Turner, on number 84, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver, Georgia?
Well, we broadcast the show, you in Key West, Florida, and me and the producer, Mr. Logan Landers, are here in the metro Atlanta area of Georgia, down here in Douglasville, Georgia. So we saw a lot of Georgia football over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about Ladd McConkey, I say respect. Respect coming from me, Vincent Turner, because he was a 3-star recruit. He was one of the last players that signed with Georgia about 4 years ago. And I was saying to myself, okay, I know he's got to be a good football player because his head coach, Kirby Smart, loved him. Well, think about him going to Georgia and what he had to face in the receiver room. Remember, Georgia had A.D. Mitchell, they had George Pickens, and they had an upcoming, as you said, one of the top players in this year's draft, Brock Bowers. But you know what? The young man handled himself, and when he was on the field, he played in 39 games, over 119 receptions, 1,687 yards, averaging almost 14 yards a catch, 14 touchdowns in the best, toughest conference of all of college football, the SEC. That's why I'm going to say today, his name is respect to me, Ladd McConkey. Then I think about when you look at this young man in his career at Georgia, they won 2 national championships while he was there. But every time it was a big game against Alabama, in the 2 games that Georgia won in his second national championship, Mr. McConkey, he had touchdowns in all those games. He always came up big in big games when he was healthy. And when I think about him, he is a tremendous football player. My skill set with Mr. Ladd McConkey, toughness. Then he does the little things to be a great football player. And then he's the quarterback's best friend because he understands coverages. As you just said, a great route runner. Now, my comparisons, I'm going to go old school. I'm going to go all the way old school. Yeah, man, they went to let me say this, a school that I went to that produced Lance Alworth. He got a little Bambi in him. That's what Mr. Alworth's nickname was. He got a little Golden Richards, who played with the Dallas Cowboys, who just passed here a couple of weeks ago. He got a little bit of Howard Twilley out of the University of Tulsa. Miami Dolphins, undefeated team. They caught that pass that prolonged Miami to go 17-0. He got a little Howard Twilley in him. I'm surprised, Mr. DK, you didn't mention Wes Welker. Wes Welker in him. Then he got a little bit of Ray Perkins when he was playing at the University of Alabama, catching passes for Joe Namath. Then he got a little bit a gentleman that was a tremendous receiver. He really reminds me, this gentleman was a 2-time All-SEC in 69 and 1970, Carlos Alvarez. All the Gator Nation know who I'm talking about. Then he got a little bit of Dennis Holman, who was an outstanding wide receiver in Alabama. And I'm going to end it with this. When you think about Lad McConkey, and you think about him going into the National Football League, he's going to be very successful. Think about a young man that played at Clemson that won 2 national championships, who's had a pretty good career with the Las Vegas Raiders. He's Hunter Renfro too. Back to you, Mr. Daniel Kelly.
Absolutely, Mr. Turner. You know, it's very interesting because when I look at a Lad McConkey, you hit on a lot of great points. I always love the history you bring into this, as well as I love the fact that you mentioned my ears perked up. There's certain buzz phrases, different things I listen for when I'm sitting in an environment with evaluators and people are giving information that, you know, kind of coincides with my scouting reports. And, you know, you said came up big in big games. That's a critical factor. You know, when I look at Lad McConkey, you know, he's a guy that I respect. You know, as a former NFL scout, you've said, Mr. Turner, that you respect, right? Right?
Yes,
you know,
sir.
Absolutely. And he's a guy that's just not getting the respect of NFL draft media platforms by and large. What am I talking about? Well, if you go right now, a great source to see how the rest of the draft media world is seeing a prospect is NFLmockdraftdatabase.com. They kind of in-house pull everything together and bring together all the opinions, assessments, evaluations, grades, everything from the entire draft community. Right now, as we speak, I just pulled it up as we're going through this, and only 17% of NFL draft platforms are seeing Lad.
I think Mr. Kelly is having technical difficulties down there in Key West, Florida. We're going to wrap up Lad McConkey with this right here. When you're looking at a football player that's played to the university, excuse me, we lost you a little bit, Mr. Kelly. You're back on with us now.
I'm back there. Thank you. It's the Key West thing. I'm closer to Cuba than I am to a Walmart. But you know, he's just not getting the love. He's a consensus 38th overall guy. But in closing, this is why it's important to base all the evaluations off of the game film and documented game film, because if you're just looking at him from the outside looking in, there's shinier, flashier, you know, sexier picks maybe to take at wide receiver. But listen, this is football. Listen, this is about getting it done. Listen, this is about production. This is about knowing how to catch the ball and how to get open. And it's for those reasons I have signed off on Lad McConkey as a first-round prospect, a first-round grade, and a guy who should go first round in the 2024 NFL Draft.
If you like the video, please comment and share it. We'd like to give special thanks to our talented producer today who's made it happen, Mr. Logan Landers, who I consider the best in the business. We being down here in Georgia, me and Mr. Landers, our producer, we know what Lad McConkey can do as a football player. Like I said, the gentleman played in 39 games. He's got back-to-back national championships, and he was a key part of them national championship squads. So I'm going to end it with this with Lad McConkey. I don't think we have to worry about where he's rated right now. Once he get into the National Football League, like he made a believer out of me, that's why I give him his nickname Respect today. I think he's going to be all right on the next level. My final words about Lad McConkey. And I got to thinking about this lead singer of Led Zeppelin. His name is Robert Plant. And they had a song that went out like this. There's a lady who is served all that glitters. It's gold. And she's buying a stairway to heaven. Lad McConkey, don't worry about it, Mr. Daniel Kelly. He's going to buy a stairway to heaven in the National Football League. Led Zeppelin, Lad McConkey. Y'all be blessed here today on 100 yards of football.